I'm just on my way to meet Tam Fry from the National Obesity Forum to speak to him about child obesity and how it's becoming a growing concern within the UK. Let's see what he has to say.
Basically, childhood obesity is a rapidly emerging problem. We have, in the year 2010, 1 million children in this country who are obese, and that is a shocking statistic. My basic work is to try and get the government to see that prevention is the only answer to the problem. This will mean, unfortunately, that a lot of children who are already overweight and obese will probably continue to be so into adulthood. But what we really must do is to prevent the next generation of children getting into the same shape. And that means prevention right from the word go. And when I'm talking about word go, I'm talking about preconception, conception, pregnancy, breastfeeding and the beginning of nutrition, and then proper weaning and first food. In the short term, you can try and stop the deluge of obesity continuing, and you can start to develop at a fairly reasonable price all the play areas which are necessary, because play being the other half of the food and exercise equation, you need to give children a lot of space in order to play. And that can be done relatively simply. In this month, for instance, Aberdeen and Liverpool councils have both devoted nearly £1 million to building play areas around primary schools. And that is a very short-term objective, and hopefully it will work, because then children will have the space to run around and do what they want. Long-term, it's much more difficult, because long-term, the major problem is to reformulate food. And to do that, you have to take on all the food industry, which are very, very powerful indeed. But we have a huge amount of processed food available for consumption, and the majority of it has got high fat, high sugar, high salt, which are the three ingredients which really lead to obesity. Until you can get the companies to reformulate their food and bring them down to an acceptable level, then you are continuing with the problem. What I want to see is everybody going into a supermarket, and irrespective of which packet they put their hands on, they should know that that is wholesome food and will be very good and nutritious for their children, particularly their children, to eat actual subsidy on that. If that happens, that will be another very good thing. The role of parents is very important. They will, of course, be the first providers of everything for their children. However, they can't operate in isolation. They have to have, if you will, the level playing field of which they can play. Now, well-off parents have got an advantage because they will be able to more easily buy nutritious food, which unfortunately tends to cost a little more. But the poorer parents will need to have assurance from the legislation, from the government, that the food which is provided for them to buy is equally as nutritious. And it may cost a little more, but I think probably in the end they will regard that as a fair trade.
If we do nothing, what does the future hold?
Unfortunately, if we do nothing, we will become very shortly like the conditions in the United States, or even worse. There was a document which was published in October called the Foresight Report, which was an extremely sophisticated computer model, and very clever people from Oxford University put it together. And they predicted that if we do nothing, 50% of the whole nation will be overweight or obese by the middle of this century. And that will be a deficit to the exchequer of something like £49 billion every year. And the longer we do nothing, the cost to the country will escalate. Now that is something which, whatever colour of political persuasion you have to be, the Chancellor of the Exchequer cannot allow to happen. Therefore, it is absolutely imperative that we do really sensible things now. We have to invest in order to profit in the future. Now, the government has said we will clear this whole thing by 2020. I don't think we will. It'll take probably another 5 or 10 years more, because obesity has been building up for the last 30 years, and you're not going to snuff it out in a few minutes. It's going to be a long, arduous battle, with lots of investment in all the areas which are necessary in order to avoid this really pernicious deficit to the exchequer in 2050.
It's a growing concern of mine. In fact, I've got grandchildren as well. I think there's a lot of too much fast food and not proper good food being given to children. A lot of parents nowadays have to work, so therefore they're, shall we say, giving their children drunk food instead of good meat and two veg, like my mum would have said.
Yeah.
And that isn't exactly helping. I wouldn't say they're responsible for the situation, but they're not helping towards it.
I'm actually going to teaching, and at the school I was at, the vast majority of the children in my classes were obese, take part in those sports and are generally eating a lot worse.
And what would you say to parents?
Make proper meals,
Yeah,
home
absolutely.
cooking definitely, packed lunches, take an interest or an effort to see what their kids are actually eating.
I think the big worry is that you won't have an adult population much beyond 50 because they'll all be dead in about 30 years' time. The other factor is if people are obese, they're normally very tired and therefore they don't like work, so you've got a bigger problem there with social services. I think that the problem that the parents are no longer parents. There used to be the old time when the mother stayed at home, and that's what they were bred for, in my opinion.
Having spoken to the public and Tam Fry, it's been obvious that child obesity is a growing concern within the UK and most likely will continue unless we do something now. But the question lies to, what are you going to do?
Wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney top. That's where